She said, "I don't want to live with you in that poor countryside." I replied, "I understand." So I moved there alone. A year later, the land that everyone thought was remote got rezoned into a new urban development, and its value increased 20-fold. When she saw I had enough money to buy a mansion in the city, her messages begging to reconcile started pouring in. She looked me in the eyes and said, "I don't want to live with you in that poor, boring countryside." I simply nodded, swallowing the disappointment, and replied, "I understand." So I packed my things and moved there alone, to the place everyone dismissed as nothing but empty fields and quiet roads. The first months were hard. Neighbors hardly noticed me, and the silence of the countryside was deafening. But I focused on my work, on improving the land, and on building a life I could be proud of, alone. Then, almost like fate itself decided to intervene, everything changed. A year later, the land that everyone called remote was rezoned into a new urban development. Its value skyrocketed overnight, 20 times what anyone imagined. And that's when the messages started coming. Short, desperate texts, long apologies, pleased to see me again. She had watched from afar as I built a life she once refused to share. And suddenly, all the doors she slammed shut were opening for her again. But I was no longer the person she could push around. I'm 28, working in finance in the city. I've always been practical, responsible, and focused on building a stable life. I like planning ahead, taking calculated risks, and creating something I can be proud of. I'm not flashy, but I'm confident in my abilities, and I'm comfortable with a quiet, self-sufficient life. She's 27, ambitious, glamorous, and thrives on city life. Fancy dinners, designer clothes, weekend getaways. She lives for the thrill of status and attention. On paper, we seemed perfect. I brought stability, she brought excitement. But in reality, we were worlds apart. I valued long-term goals and simplicity. She valued luxury, glamour, and immediate satisfaction. When I told her I wanted to move back to the countryside to start a business, she laughed, loud and sharp. "Are you serious?" she said, rolling her eyes. "The countryside? That poor, boring nowhere? Do you know what people will think?" "I'm serious," I said calmly. "It's an opportunity," she scoffed. "An opportunity? You mean you're going to waste your time in some mud-covered field while everyone else lives in the city, enjoying real life?" Her words cut deeper than I expected. She didn't just reject my idea, she insulted me, my intelligence, and my choices. She assumed I had run out of money, that I was making a desperate mistake. "Honestly, I thought you were smart," she said, shaking her head. "But this is ridiculous. Do you even realize how pathetic that sounds?" I swallowed the sting, refusing to let her see how hurt I was. I simply nodded. "I understand," I said quietly. I didn't argue. I didn't want to fight over something she clearly couldn't respect. But inside, my emotions were a mix of frustration, sadness, and disbelief. She didn't stop. Over the next few days, every conversation turned into a lecture or a sneer. "You'll regret this," she said one morning, sipping her coffee with that smug look she always gets when she thinks she's right. "No one builds anything in that boring countryside. You'll be stuck there, lonely and broke." "I won't be broke," I reminded her. "I have a plan." She laughed like I had said something absurd. "A plan? In the middle of nowhere?" "Sweetheart, reality check. People don't care about your little fields. You're throwing away everything we have." Her words stung, but I kept my voice calm. "Maybe, but this is the life I want to try." She shook her head, her expression a mix of disbelief and mockery. "I don't want to live there with you. I'll just stay in the city and enjoy my life." I can't imagine wasting a single day in that dead-end place. Her rejection was sharp, but it also clarified something for me. This wasn't just about where to live. It was about values, priorities, and respect. She valued status and comfort. I valued independence and purpose. I could see already that our visions for life were incompatible, so I started preparing. Every comment she made became fuel. "You're going to regret this," she said again as I packed boxes. "Mark my words, you'll come crawling back to me when your little dream fails." I didn't reply. I focused on the logistics, the property, the paperwork, the small renovations. The countryside was quiet, overlooked, and dismissed by everyone around me. But I saw potential. Birds chirping in the morning, open fields stretching for miles. The sense of having space to breathe and work without judgment. It was liberating. As I drove away from the city for the last time, I felt a strange mixture of sorrow and resolve. Sorrow for leaving behind someone I loved, and resolve because I was finally following my own path. She could mock, sneer, and dismiss me all she wanted, but I was determined to build a life she could never belittle again. After moving to the countryside, the first few weeks were tougher than I imagined. The silence was deafening, and the neighbors hardly noticed me. I spent my days cleaning the small house, tending the fields, and planning the business I hoped to grow. The work was exhausting but strangely satisfying. I was building something, even if no one else could see its value yet. Meanwhile, she didn't let me forget her presence, or rather, the lack of it. I started getting messages that made my stomach twist. At first, it was passive-aggressive comments like, "So how's life in the middle of nowhere? Still lonely?" Or, "I hope the mud hasn't eaten you alive yet." I ignored most of them. But then things got worse. One night, I found out through mutual friends that she had started dating my best friend. My chest tightened when I saw his name pop up in her stories, tagged with him laughing and holding her hand. I couldn't believe it. Not only had she rejected me, belittled my plans, and mocked my choices, but now she was with someone I had trusted implicitly. I confronted her over text. "You're with him?" Her reply came almost instantly, dripping with smugness. "Yes, he's fun, he understands me." Unlike someone else who wanted to move to the middle of nowhere, I stared at my phone, anger and disbelief mixing into a cold, quiet fury. I didn't respond immediately. I didn't want to play her game. But her messages kept coming, each one more cutting than the last. "I always knew you'd end up lonely there. Hope your fields keep you company. I think I made the right choice staying in the city. I deserve a life I actually enjoy." I wanted to lash out, to scream, to tell her she was shallow and petty, but I didn't. I had learned already that arguing with her only made me miserable. Instead, I focused on my work, throwing myself into the property and the business. Still, her constant presence online, her stories, her teasing messages gnawed at me. A friend of mine tried to console me. "Forget her. You're doing something amazing. She'll regret it." I nodded, but it was hard to feel anything beyond bitterness and betrayal. The months passed slowly. I worked sunrise to sunset, fixing the small farmhouse, planting fields, and negotiating local contracts. The work was grueling, but I felt a growing sense of pride. Every small accomplishment, mending a broken fence, getting the first small contract for produce delivery, felt like a personal victory. Meanwhile, her life in the city seemed perfect, at least on the surface. Friends posted pictures of her laughing with my former best friend, traveling, shopping, living the luxury life she had always wanted. But I didn't care about appearances. I was building something that mattered, even if she couldn't see it. Still, her messages kept dripping in. "I hope the animals aren't starving you. Do you even remember what fun feels like? You're so stubborn. It's kind of pathetic." One evening, after a long day of work, I finally replied, not with anger, not with begging, but with calm, quiet precision. "I understand why you chose to stay in the city. I hope you're happy." There was a pause. Then another message. "Don't act like you're better than me. You're miserable, lonely, and isolated." I didn't answer. I had learned the hard way that engaging her only fed the fire. Instead, I went back to my work, planning for the next season, thinking long-term. I could feel the land beneath my feet, steady and real, unlike the drama she thrived on. And still there was this gnawing thought that she was with my best friend, someone I had trusted implicitly. It felt like a knife in the back every time I saw them together online. But rather than breaking me, it hardened me. I worked harder, longer, smarter. I was determined to prove that my choices weren't mistakes, even if she and everyone else thought they were. By the time winter came, the first signs of growth began to appear. The land I had worked tirelessly on started to show results. Crops sprouted, fences were secure, and the small business I envisioned slowly took shape. Meanwhile, her messages became less frequent, almost hesitant, as if she was beginning to realize that maybe she had underestimated me. Winter faded, and with spring came news I had never expected. The local council announced a rezoning of the area, the same boring remote countryside that everyone, including her, had mocked. Suddenly, the land I had poured my time, sweat, and patience into was now slated for urban development. Its value skyrocketed, far beyond what anyone could have predicted. I was in the barn when I received the official notice. At first I stared at the letter, incredulous. 20-fold increase. My modest property, the one she had scoffed at, was now worth enough to buy a mansion in the city. I sank onto a bale of hay, the mix of disbelief and triumph washing over me. Every late night, every moment of solitude, every insult and sneer she had sent me, they suddenly seemed worth it. And then her messages started again. Hesitant at first, cautious, almost testing the waters, I saw the news. Is it true? The land. You actually made it work? I didn't respond. Let them sit. I didn't need to justify a single thing to her. Within hours the tone changed. I can't believe this. I was wrong about you. Please, can we talk? I want to see you. I made a huge mistake leaving. I thought I knew better, but you were right all along. Her words made my chest tighten, but not for the reasons she might have hoped. This wasn't about ego or revenge. It was vindication. She had dismissed me, mocked my choices and walked away, believing that I was chasing some foolish dream. And now all of a sudden, the foolish dream had transformed into undeniable success. I let the messages pile up, a flood of desperation, regret and pleading. One in particular caught my eye. I see now how much courage and effort it took. I'm sorry. I should never have left. Can we try again? The irony wasn't lost on me. She had chosen glamour over substance, mockery over belief, and now she was asking for what she had walked away from. I typed a single measured response. I appreciate your apology, but this life isn't about anyone else. I've built it for me. I won't go back to what we had. Her next few messages were frantic. Please, I see now what I threw away. I was wrong. You're extraordinary. Give me a chance. I didn't answer. Instead, I walked outside, feeling the solid earth beneath my feet, the fences I had repaired, the crops sprouting from the soil. Each small success felt like a personal victory, proof that my choices, though doubted by everyone around me, were right. The financial windfall was just part of it. Quietly, I had reinvested part of my earnings into neighboring plots, anticipating the city's expansion. Each investment grew steadily. By the end of the season, my portfolio had ballooned beyond what I had initially imagined. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving, far beyond what anyone had predicted, including her. She messaged again that evening, almost pleading, I never realized. I was wrong about you, about us. Please just talk to me. I smiled faintly, shaking my head. She still didn't understand. It wasn't about her validation. It was about the life I had built. I replied with calm finality. I've worked for this life, I've built it, and it's mine. I'm proud of what I've created. I wish you well, but this chapter is closed. And just like that, I put my phone down. The land, the business, the investments, they were tangible proof of my vision and perseverance. She could apologize, plead, or beg, but none of it could touch the life I had forged for myself. For the first time, I felt fully vindicated. Not through revenge, not through confrontation, but through living a life that mattered, through building, thriving, and proving my choices were right, even when no one else believed in them. The remote, boring countryside had become my empire, my sanctuary, and the ultimate twist of fate. In the weeks that followed, I continued to expand my ventures. The farm's profits allowed me to invest in nearby properties, and I quietly started flipping a few city apartments. Each investment returned more than I anticipated, compounding quickly, ballooning my finances even further. By early summer, the small plot of land that everyone had laughed at had become the foundation for a growing portfolio, blending rural sustainability with urban opportunity. Her messages dwindled to short, hesitant notes, each tinged with regret. I can't stop thinking about what I threw away. I didn't realize how much vision and dedication you had. I see it now. I read them, but my mind was elsewhere, on the next season, on securing another plot that had just come up for sale, on the plans for a modest but profitable expansion of the farm-to-city supply chain I had been designing. Each step, each calculated move reinforced the truth I had already embraced. My life was mine to shape. One evening, she sent a longer message, almost pleading. I know I hurt you. I know I was wrong. Please, just let me explain. I stared at the words for a moment, then set my phone aside. There was nothing to explain that could change the past. Months later, the news reached me, though I hadn't sought it. The relationship she had run off with, my former best friend, had completely collapsed. Their so-called glamorous life turned out to be a house of cards. The small business they had started together, which she had hyped endlessly as our empire, went bankrupt within a year. Mismanagement, poor planning, and constant arguments had drained their savings. Rumors spread among mutual friends, unpaid bills, suppliers threatening lawsuits, and empty promises piling up. Their lavish Instagram photos hid nothing. They were now struggling to pay rent. With debts mounting, I focused instead on my life, the farm thriving, investments compounding, and the small business steadily growing. Every crop, every property, every deal was a reminder that patience, foresight, and hard work mattered far more than fleeting excitement or vanity. Their downfall was a lesson they learned too late, while I had quietly built an unshakable life. And as I walked through the fields, watching the sun set over the land I had transformed, I felt nothing but quiet satisfaction. I had lost nothing by staying true to myself, and they had lost everything chasing illusions. The remote, boring countryside had become my empire, my sanctuary, and the ultimate proof that integrity, vision, and perseverance always pay off. I learned that true vindication doesn't come from revenge or proving others wrong. It comes from staying true to yourself, nurturing your vision, and letting your life speak for itself, and for that I am quietly, deeply grateful. Thanks for listening.